Hello and welcome to another installment of a keeper's reaction to, this time, Guelmor De Toro's Dreams in the Witch's House from Cabinet of Curiosities. This one in particular, you all were very concise about. We put out a poll, y'all wanted us to talk about Dreams in the Witch's House, and well, here we are. Now, real quick for anyone that's unfamiliar, I'm Ben, I'm a keeper of arcane lore. That means I run a game called Call of Cthulhu. Essentially, any H.P. Lovecraft questions, the Cthulhu mythos, I'm the guy to break it all down for you, what it means, how it ties in together, and what's going on. Now, Dreams in the Witch's House in particular, I'm not gonna lie, this is not my favorite episode. I didn't hate it as much as other people, but I think that's because there is a level of appreciation that you could have for what was attempted. But if you have seen it before, or if this is your first time watching, you'll quickly catch on to why certain elements fail as far as it being a horror adaptation. Funny enough, there's like several short stories that they're adapting, and basically almost none of it without the base premise is Dreams in the Witch's House. I'll explain as we go along. Let's begin this episode of Cabinet of Curiosities. Wonder what's happening. Oh, there's a ghost. That's what that is. Yeah, ghost. Not actually very common in H.P. Lovecraft stories. Usually if they appear, it's like an old man that has like affinity for the mythos and has learned some magic to make him a ghost. But even then, it's not actually ghost, it's like astral projection or some other crazy shit. Hi, Ben from Post here. So the only story that I can find from Lovecraft that has anything to do with what you might call ghost is actually the story or novelette, The Mound. Now, this is one of my favorite Lovecraft stories. It has to do with the ancient city of Kenyan, which is underneath America's heartland. Now, there's people down here in the city of Kenyan that are basically so evolved in a different direction and so much more in tune with the mythos that they are able to wield magic at will, including things like astral projection. Now, obviously, that's not necessarily at play in this story. However, it is a good way to think about how things that are ghostly might be used in a Lovecraftian story, which is if something seems like it is a known mythological element, it is usually not. That being said, I highly recommend you read the actual story. It's one of my favorites. It's just really damn cool. And she gets sucked down, dragged out. Homeboy is full-blown first-hand experience with the mythos right now, sucked away, and he didn't even go after her. You had legs. Why aren't you running? Yeah, this is the shot where it fades into Rupert Grint. Yep, who would have known? That's it, that's the show? The show just started. Did you guys just scam people into a 5-minute show? Homeboy, we cannot be focused on your sister this late in your life. This is unhealthy behavior. What you got in that book, buddy? Pharaohs, all right, so we're looking into Egypt, I see you. So one of the things that they actually kept rather consistent is the fact that Walter Gilman in the story is still obsessed with the mythos, or at least what he perceives to be the mythos. Now, the big difference, though, is that in the books, he had a much better handle of what was going on. He had already snuck into Henry Artemich's library and read several of those really fantastical tomes that are kind of at the heart of all these stories, like the Necronomicon and some other fun mythos pieces. So it's because of this that eventually leads him down this road, and in the original story, he does this strictly because it's his own personal fascination. Now, they made some good choices by changing this. However, unfortunately, it's just hard for them to do, as this kind of character does not make for a great point of view character in a TV show. I'm going to talk about it later. Oh my god, you can't just listen to other people. You can, they're talking about drugs, that's pretty obvious. So, this character is actually from a story. However, it is not this, it's from The Dream Cycle, which is another collection of short stories, I should add, including other bits. This is a hodgepodge of different stories. That is my big problem with this. None of them are, and what's worse is we're actively denied some really cool things from Dreams in the Witch's House, and he is now taking dream drug. Talk about that. Oh, and welcome to the Dreamlands. First of all, let's talk about what this was supposed to be, starting with the drug, the golden liquid gold. Liquid gold? Liquid gold. This is originally from a completely separate story
Called Hypnose and Ex Oblivone, to be exact.
from the dream cycle, and it is about, very similarly, a person taking drugs in order to get to a different dimension. Except the different dimension in this is actually the very well established in the Cthulhu mythos, the Dreamlands. So what is the Dreamlands? This is the Dreamlands. It's quite a big place. It is the main setting for the entirety of the dream cycle, plus a couple other mythos stories that touch upon it. Dreams in the Witch's House does vaguely touch upon it in the fact that it does, obviously, due to its namesake, use dreaming. However, it's done in a different way. We're not explicitly taken to a place in the Dreamlands and Dreams in a Witch's House, but instead we're shown visions of the universe and understanding Keziah Mason, and the main character even starts to become somewhat of a follower or believer of Keziah Mason's religion and practices. This is a very different and not necessarily wrong interpretation in how it looks, but very wrong in explanation. Yeah, this is just, we're straight up adapting a different story right now. Oh, the artist. There we go. That entire scene was so flat. You just walked up to her and we're like, what are you doing here? She runs away and you see the witch house. That's how we get you there? That's the beat? Yeah, this script's very melodramatic. I will say, Rupert Grint is doing such a good job. The Forest of Lost Souls, as it's seen throughout this. The Dreamlands are not a place where it's ever been established that the dead go. There are dead and ghosts that live in the Dreamlands. The Dreamlands is supposed to be fantastical. It's supposed to be built off of the dreams of every individual that is living on a planet. And what this extends to is that there's Dreamlands for more than just the Earth's Dreamlands. There's Dreamlands for the moons of Saturn. There's Dreamlands for the goddamn moon, and that is accessible through our own Dreamlands. It's very bizarre, and it weirdly adds this fantasy side to H.P. Lovecraft's entire sci-fi element, which is weird and feels genre-breaking, but for the time, he was experimenting with shit in the first place. And honestly, there is something that is kind of incredible about what you can do with the Dreamlands when used correctly. There's really fun interpretations of it. I believe Dark Horse Comics did a run on it a while ago, which is an adaptation of the Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, which again is just an incredible story. It explores so many elements of the Cthulhu mythos throughout it, while feeling like an epic odyssey throughout the entirety of the Dreamlands. If you haven't read it or listened to it, highly recommend it.
Real quick, I just want to clarify, while they have made it very clear that this is not canonically the Dreamlands, they are using the same plot devices that are known to be part of the Dreamlands in other stories, which is the reason why we're framing it in this conversation.
She used an ancient ritual dagger as a key.
That's supposed to be a dagger? Why would you suggest it? Why would you suggest to your boss to try drugs? There's nothing I can't stand. It is bad character writing. Or at least stupid characters as main protagonist. Because most people would understand, especially given the times, that if you are getting to the other side based off of a drug, depending on if the drug's working the way you think it is or not, you're not going to automatically assume that other people are going to want to take the drug in order to go to other places without, losing your job. Just the thought. Oh, there we go. That is our first rat thing. All right, what we have right here is a named monster. It is called a rat thing. They show up here. They show up in a couple other places, and they very much show up in the actual tabletop role-playing game, of course, Call of Cthulhu. Rat things in Call of Cthulhu, at least, and this is supposed to be based off of a bunch of other H.P. Lovecraft works in the Cthulhu mythos itself, is they don't want to be like that. How should I put this? They used to be people. Now, how you become a rat thing is usually a witch or a wizard will like, you're a rat thing now, and do something to you, essentially killing your other body, and your soul's put in a rat and the face gets fucking transfigured, however the fuck that happens. Technically speaking, there's nothing wrong with how our rat thing is portrayed here. They're fine, actually. They do the rat thing. It's a human face on a rat, uncanny. But unfortunately, at the same time, it kind of loses its luster when we see it immediately. This episode in particular just shows us way too much of the monsters. It doesn't actually let suspense build, which I can't condone, especially in film, where the more you see something, the more your suspension of disbelief is plunged. And with horror, you need to not be able to understand what you're looking at. And potentially, like, the way that it was executed in the book is your mind is filling in those gaps. It's like, there's no way a rat could actually look like it has a human's face, and you'll be in the uncanny valley. But when you see it just on screen, it just doesn't work the same way. It's so inconsistent on if the rat's real or not. Ooh, there we go. You thought it was a witch? That's Ryuk, baby. Same exact thing. That's just Ryuk. We're in Death Note, baby. That's your Shinigami. Give it an apple, my friend. Oh yeah, sleep paralysis, baby. Uh-oh. Oh, I don't like dripping. Nope. Not a fan of wet ceilings dripping on me. That just gives me full-on corrupted vibes. Absolutely not. Oh, here comes big girl Ryuk. She coming for the slam. We've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty. Oh, I mean, ooh. I don't know. I mean, maybe? Oh, she's got the key. Knife, dagger, I still don't understand what it's supposed to be. But also, smash. It's so nice of her to put the pieces together for you. There's no way that that's ominous or bad for you.
Do you hear? They followed you through the door.
How do you know? He's been here 2 seconds. Why do we need the ripples language? Nothing comes back because of the ripples. It's not like you wake up some primal god. Why don't you all just go back the way you came? It was right there. The blocking it is really bad. Why? Why did she need to kiss him? Like, all here for sexual horror. Sexual horror can be great. Why did she need to kiss him for that? Is there a thematic element going on? Does she have to fuck him? The answer's no, obviously, but still. The shitty thing is, like, so we're now well within just the Keziah Mason storyline. We are actively being robbed of a really cool storyline involving fucking Azathoth right now. So, one of the big things that we were denied from this adaptation is straight up seeing Azathoth. That's right. We could have seen this in all its Guelmor Del Toro practical effects glory, or CGI glory, however he'd take to it. It is Guelmor Del Toro. He will do what's appropriate. He is a special effects genius and just does a very good job if he is EPing on anything. He's the reason why the goddamn monster from the last episode, Pickman's model, was so fucking good. But if you were to keep the surreal imagery of, let's say, I don't know, 1883, oh shoot, I forget, the one with the boat. If you were to keep that surreal imagery that can work for cosmic horror, you actually could have done a hard adaptation of this. That being said, you still would need to make some changes. I do think that one of the things that this story did relatively well is the fact that they needed a character with motivation, which we do not have in the original Dreams of the Witch's House. For context, the main plot of like 5 in Dreams of the Witch's House is that a man, a college student as a matter of fact, who is just very, very poor, decides that he is going to stay in the spooky house that no one wants to stay in. That's it. That's the entire premise, which it works for a horror story. However, H.P. Lovecraft really likes passive protagonists, which don't make for actual good protagonist most of the time. He just uses them as like you'll be experiencing the horrors of everything through them, which doesn't really work on TV, you need an active protagonist in any more involved piece of media in order to work with. So they did make the right call of giving him a motivation, just moving it to the afterlife instead of being enraptured in the Cthulhu mythos by simply living here and having everyone begin to doubt your sanity and then going into madness. And then eventually, after all is said and done and you're taken out of the house and the events finish unfolding there, you have a rat burst out of your chest. That would have been pretty terrifying.
Also, I can't believe I forgot to state this in the original, but the original story that this is based off of is an epic. We full-blown meet and work with Nyalarthotep. We visit other planets through dreams and start meeting alien races. We also meet the god Yog-Sothoth, or at least a form of. It's mind-bending, and one of the reasons why it was so hard to adapt. Of course, the additional question here is, if you aren't going to adapt that part of the story, why adapt it at all?
Why did you go in here instead of outside? What was wrong with outside? There was an opportunity here as well with the openings of doors lines for us to explore another mythos entity, and I guess we're just not doing it, or at least referring to it. Could have had Yog-Sothoth in this as well, I'm just saying. Oh boy. You didn't piece that together the first time you saw him with his white streak of hair? You're a church lady, you should have no ability to actually understand what's going on. I know you did not just invite your friend to potentially get murdered. Why was he just coughing? Is he supposed to die of sickness? I am confused. This scene's so heavy-handed, oh my god. You're not gonna do anything. Oh, that's a dead nun. That makes sense. How did everyone else get out of there just fine, though? Oh, that could have just snapped him. Why are you guys just doing nothing? Why are you taking your time with it? Keziah, why are you taking so long? Well, that was shockingly easy. Yeah. She ain't shit. She got killed by a ghost girl with her own knife. Did not have a lot of upper body strength, actually. Ooh. Okay, and we prettily get rid of her. It's, again, not a... Ghosts are not supposed to work like that. This story is just not a mythos story, unfortunately. We're finally checking out the red gooping mold. Don't leave him unattended. I love how if someone just checked out what was making the wet thing earlier, they could have figured this out. Like any of the tenants. Now, I think originally it was like, there may have been a plot line related to this that was hidden behind a, like, where a window should have been. Oh boy. But wasn't. Oh, here we go. And I would like to present to you one of the only scenes that is somewhat from the original story. Feel, oh, that's some bad indigestion, buddy. Really, you need to take Tums. There's her little rat thing. That humanoid skull. Yeah, it's too late for that. Don't just leave your friend's body. You're not supposed, you do not just leave the body of your friend. Now that's new. That's completely new. Is he gonna like do something comically evil? I feel like he is. Yeah, he's just gonna steal an apple. Excellent. Overall, this was just as the cool things that they tried doing, adapting random parts of the dream cycle, but not honoring the dream cycle. It feels like it, from a Cthulhu mythos standpoint, doesn't know where it wants to be and is very picky and choosy from what it's doing. And I want to stress this again, there's nothing wrong with that. The Cthulhu mythos is a tool that is to be used by other writers in order to tell original stories. Unfortunately, where this actually ends up lacking is the direction and story structure, which just means it's hands down a not great adaptation. Sorry. Now, that being said, based off of the fact that we got Pickman in Pickman's model, and now we have begun to explore the other dimensions in the show, if they wanted to, they have now actually set the stage for doing a Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath. Now, there's other stories with Randolph Carter that they could do later on if this gets picked up for another season. But if they don't, it's fine. If they do, I'd be really interested to see us do more Dreamland stuff. I feel like there is a cinematic marketplace for the Dreamlands, especially if you wanted to go in the style of the Green Knight. The Green Knight is exactly how the Dreamlands should feel. It's Arthurian, it feels more Fae-ish than nature, and if you know anything about Fae are horrifying, and honestly make for a great horror setting. My hope is bully Guelmor Del Toro into making a Dream Cycle adaptation, please. 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 It would be so cool. You know it would be so cool. You know what would also be so cool? If you subscribe to this channel. We'll be back next week, maybe with more Cabinet of Curiosities. I heard that episode 2 is actually a Cthulhu Mythos adaptation, but I have not had a chance to do research on that. Let me know in the comments. If not, we'll be back with one of the other Cthulhu Mythos things that I can actually fucking talk about, because there are a lot of things for me to do. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Also, like and subscribe. We're trying to hit monetization. I'm begging you.